it's Uncle Mike back again. Today we're going to make two videos. It's Saturday here in California, and we have company coming over at 5 o'clock. Right now it's 10 in the morning. We're going to make a video on making tomato sauce, and we're also going to make a video on chicken cacciatore. So I'm going to start with the tomato sauce first, and here's the most of the ingredients that go with it. The recipe is going to be posted on underneath the video like they always are. And you're looking at it and you're saying, whoa, cans of tomato. Mike, I thought you were all in favor of fresh food and everything. I thought you were kind of a purist. Well, generally I am, but for two reasons here, I'm going to make the tomato sauce with canned tomatoes. Number one, like I said, we're making two things today, quite a bit of work. So I'm not going to start with tomatoes. I'm going to start with the tomatoes in the cans. And I did make tomato sauce from tomatoes last winter, and it came out kind of watery. So I am gonna later this winter when it's nice and cold and rainy out, we're gonna have a video where I make spaghetti and meatballs, and I'll make the tomato sauce from tomatoes. But I'm gonna research a little bit more what I can do to thicken up the sauce, and if anybody has any ideas about when you make tomato sauce from tomatoes, how to get the sauce a little thicker, please post it in the comments and I'll try it. But even making the tomato sauce from canned tomatoes tastes so much better than the stuff you buy with ragu. I swear ragu it tastes like it's 50% sugar after you taste tomato sauce that's made from tomatoes in cans, the way we're going to make it today. Basically, the sauce, starting the sauce, you start chopping up garlic and a couple of onions. I'm doubling the recipe. The recipe calls for 1 onion. I'm doubling it. So you chop those up and you saute them in olive oil. I'm going to show if the camera person will come around here. I went on the internet on YouTube and I saw how people were getting the paper off of this, off these garlic cloves, which I always had trouble with. Just basically get your broad blade knife like this and you go smash it and just pick off all the paper. That comes off a lot easier. From here you can either chop up the remaining garlic with a knife, or you can use what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this chopper along with the onions. Once I get the onions ready, we're going to just chop them all up together and then saute them. So once we get ready to saute, we'll be back with you. Okay, I got all the onions chopped up and the garlic all chopped up. Put them in this vessel right here. These are the spices that we're going to add in right here. Remember, I doubled the recipe that I'm going to post because I want to make more of this stuff. So that means I put in a half a cup of my favorite olive oil into this pan, heating the pan up. The next step that it calls for is to saute the onions and the garlic for about 10 minutes until translucent, and add in all the spices. So that's what I'm going to do for about 10 minutes. After that, we're going to add some tomato paste. And after that, cook for about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to transfer it into a big pot, and we're going to add the whole potatoes, and then we'll let it simmer the rest of the day and thicken up. So we'll be back with you in a couple minutes when these are all sauteed. Okay, so here, if you'll take a look at the onions and garlic and the spices, smells very good in here, along with the garlic oil. We've been sauteing. Olive oil. I've been sauteing this for about 8 minutes or so. One of the spices I was supposed to put in here is called a bay leaf. Well, I didn't have any. I marked it on my shopping list. I'm going to go get some for next time. And our camera person / director, producer, cooking expert, Patty, reminded me that, there's just about done sauteing. She reminded me that when you cook with a bay leaf, you should put a string on it and put it into the pot, because it's just there to add flavor. You don't want to eat that and then pull it out of by the string when you're done cooking, so that you don't take the chance of ingesting that bay leaf. Now if you look here, I've got the 4 cans of tomatoes, whole potatoes, whole tomatoes opened up. Recipe calls for 2, but like I said, I'm doubling it. And after you saute this, the onions and the garlic, it calls for putting in some tomato paste. And how much tomato paste? 2 tablespoons. Well, I'm going to put in probably a little bit more than that just because it feels like the right thing to do. So I'm going to put in some tomato paste, and you're supposed to let this cook for 5 minutes. And which we'll do. We'll let it cook for 5 minutes with the onions and the garlic. And then after that, we'll pour everything into there, and we'll pour the tomatoes in, and we'll let it simmer for a good long time and make it into a nice sauce. So you can see me right here trying to mix this tomato paste up with the onions, the garlic, and the olive oil and the spices that we used. So we'll see in about 5 minutes, and we'll finish putting this together, and we'll be done with the first part of our meal today, and it'll only be 11:15 or so. Okay, so we've had the tomato paste in here about 5 minutes with the onions and the garlic, and I put just the right amount of garlic oil in here that the recipe called for. Like I said, olive oil. Boy, I put just the right amount of olive oil that the recipe called for, considering that I was doubling it. And that's probably important because you can see this stuff is kind of a consistency of being kind of thick almost. So I imagine that's going to help to thicken up our tomato sauce. Now what I'm going to do is take the stuff that I've just sauteed with the tomato paste, pour it into this bigger pot, and put this over here. Move the pot to the burner that's on, and then I'm going to add, recipe called for 2 cans of these whole tomatoes. Since I'm doubling it, I put 1 in already, and I'm going to put 3 more in. And I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to simmer it and keep my eye on it while it's simmering, because I don't want it to burn on the bottom. You got to be careful with that. So go ahead, take a look at that. Take a nice close look at that, and then Patty can verify. How's it smell in here, Patty?
It smells divine.
Yes. So yes, we did use canned tomatoes. I do apologize for that. Next time I'm going to use regular tomatoes, but this is going to be a whole lot better than ragu, and it's going to tell the people that are coming over here, hey, we care about you to do the very best we can.